It's me, Jane, and today we're going to be doing a debate. Bet you didn't see that coming. Today we have Nathan Lippa supporting communism. Got you again, didn't I? Today we have Nathaniel Carruthers supporting capitalism. Okay, it's time to start the debate. Now, who's going to go first?
Me!
You didn't let me finish the sentence. Well,
Yeah, Nathan.
Nathan Lippa, supporting communist, will be going first. Good job.
Firstly, I will start by saying capitalism is completely unfair to the proles. And by proles, I mean the general population. Now, 80% of the planet's entire population lives in poverty. 80%. And to top it off, half of the planet's money, half of it, belongs to the top 3% of the population. According to UNICEF, 22,000 children die each day due to poverty. 22,000 children. And that's not even counting everybody else. This would all be solved if all wealth was distributed equally. With communism. Also, the most successful capitalist countries are all in billions of debt. How much debt was the USSR in 1992 when it collapsed? Less than 50 billion. How much is the US in now? 21.5 trillion. That is 430 times the amount the USSR was in. But yeah, you can't believe this case. Take Japan, for example. They are $11 trillion in debt. Japan is 46 times smaller, and they have 220 times the amount of debt. This is undeniable proof that communism is better than capitalism. Now, there are a few flaws in communism, but I will address them. Now, have never been any communist democracies, but there's a reason for that. In order for there to be a communist democracy, there has to be a majority of communists to vote for communism. And for some reason, most people don't like communism. Lastly, there's a common misconception that everyone living in a perfect utopia, aka a communist country, is starving. This is simply not true. In the USSR, they were not starving because of communism, but because they don't have enough fertile ground. In most of Russia, the ground is permafrost. Plants can't grow in frozen ground. Now, take Cuba, for example. They aren't starving, are they?
For my first statement, I would like to say that my argument is not that capitalism is perfect. It does have its flaws, but communism is way worse. Do you know how many countries have ever been communist? Over 30. Now guess how many are still communist? 5 of them. I can count that with one hand. How many capitalist countries are there? There are over 25, and those are just the major ones. If communism really worked, a lot more countries would likely use it. Do you know why more countries don't use it? It's because it doesn't work. The idea of communism is for everybody to be equal, for everybody to have the same opportunity. And when that happens, there's no trade with people in the country, there's no trade with people outside the country, and so everyone loses money because of the lack of trade. For example, Romania was a communist nation for over 30 years under a dictator named Nicolae Ceausescu. And under his control, trade dropped by a large amount, many people went unemployed, and there were shortages of food, energy, and many other things. There's a reason the dollar sign is a symbol for capitalism. It's because capitalist nations actually succeed financially. In capitalist countries, trade flows greatly with other countries and with people within the capitalist country, and the nations get wealthier and wealthier, and the people become happier.
99! Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there. We'll be right back to this very important, unimportant debate after this short message. It's me, Mr. Smorgslaborglin. Today, I'm here to sponsor Dickory Does. Here, have a Dickory
Whoa!
Dough.
This is way better than lifting weights.
Get your Dickory Dough today! Welcome back to the debate. Now we have Nate Carruthers supporting capitalism. Nate, what is your rebuttal?
One of your biggest points that you went on for some time was the fact that capitalist countries go into a lot of debt. And that is statistically true. But, yeah, they do that so that their citizens can have a higher quality of life, because otherwise their citizens would get in a lot of debt. Also, obviously, obviously capitalist countries get in more debt than communist countries because they actively trade with other nations. Communist countries can't really get in a lot of debt because they don't trade. That's not a flaw. That's just a product of the system of capitalism.
Oh, Nathan, with communism, what is your rebuttal?
Alright, so first off, I'm going to start with how Nate only had 2 points, whereas I had 3.
Wow.
Alright, so the first point that Nate had was the amount of communist countries. Now, he said that at the start there were 30, and then now there are only a few. Now, one of the reasons for the collapse of many communist countries is because capitalist countries, like the US, invade them and are just like, hey, you know what? We don't like communism, so you shouldn't be communist. And essentially make the country fall apart. Now, Nate also addressed the lack of trade in many communist countries. Now, this is a problem, but it generally doesn't create that much of a issue. As in, like, let's say in Russia, they wouldn't really need to do much trading because they had a lot of land, but their land was frozen. Now, in other countries, like, as Nate said, Romania, they could have easily lived off their own land. Now, oftentimes, communist countries also collapse because of their corrupt rulers. And that's not really the fault of communism. That's the fault of Trzaskowski or whatever.
Nikolai Ceausescu.
Yeah, Nikolai Ceausescu or Joseph Stalin. Both of them were evil, evil men. And that is my rebuttal.
Thank you, Nathan.
That's actually fun.
Now, Nate Carruthers, with capitalism. Nate, what is your next point?
For my closing argument, I'm going to explain why capitalism is not only a better system for the country in general, but also for the individual people living in the country as well. In a communist nation, everyone gets the same amount of materials no matter what they do. Therefore, there's essentially no reason for people living in communist states to do work, or at least not to do more than is asked of them. In capitalist countries, the more work you do, the more money you make. So people do more work, they trade, people help themselves by helping each other, and you can find any service you need. That doesn't happen in communist countries. Also, greed is a factor in capitalist countries, but communism doesn't eradicate greed. The government of a communist country has a crazy amount of control. They can get as much money and materials as they want, taking from the people. There's nothing to stop them. And don't think they don't basically steal from the people. They do. Let's go back to Romania. Remember Nikolai Ceausescu? He was one of the most brutal dictators in history. He stole money, he ordered executions, he was awful for the country. He inspired so many angry people to cause a huge-scale revolution, and he was executed. See the corruption communism can cause? Joseph Stalin was the leader of the USSR for most of its years, and under him, his people starved, they were executed. He's up there with Hitler as one of the cruelest men in history. Some historians estimate that he caused the deaths of 20 to 50 million people, and he's the person who popularized communism. Communism gave him the power to be that bad. He's the man who forced countries to become communist with violence and left his country and the world in ruin. Communism undoubtedly causes corruption, and that corruption can lead to millions of deaths. It really can't be defended.
Now Nathan Lippa with his final statement.
Alright, Nate, good points. But you still don't have what it takes to beat me. Communists always win. Communists also live better than capitalists. Karl Marx, the founder of communism, writes, "In a slave economy, most of us are slaves. In a feudal economy, most of us are serfs. In a capitalist economy, we become the servants of a small class of capitalists. In a slave mode of production, the slave gives all of their surplus to the slave owner. Under feudalism, the serf gave roughly 50% of their surplus to the lord. Under capitalism today, we give a lot of surplus to our bosses too, right? In a communist world, we would be free from our masters." Okay, so I'm exaggerating a tiny little bit, but come on, it's true. Communism is fairer. It's so sad that some countries don't care about their low or lower middle classes. Capitalism is survival of the fittest, and if you don't make it, well, too bad. Capitalism also largely depends on chance, or how well your ancestors did, instead of you. Take Trump, for example, the most famous capitalist. He started with a small loan of $1 million. This is the embodiment of capitalism. Nate, you can fire away your rebuttal, but I know that communism is better. Thank you.
With his rebuttal.
Okay, so I have 2 points, and they were both written down on this sheet as things that Nathan might say, so I'm the prediction master. One of your arguments was that capitalism is unfair because you can inherit money from your parents. My only rebuttal to that is that just because you get money from your parents doesn't mean that that's the only money that Donald Trump ever made. You still have to do work to perpetuate the cycle that your parents started, and luck is a part of life. Also, you said that survival of the fittest, capitalism is sort of survival of the fittest, and if you don't make it, too bad. Survival of the fittest is an actual thing in nature. Are you saying that that's a bad thing, that that's a problem? Are you disrespecting God's green earth? And also, you said that communism is fair because it's equal, and fair isn't equal. They're two different things. Fair is getting paid for the amount of work you do, like in capitalism. Equal gives citizens no reason to work, like I said before in my other argument. And that's the way it is, don't you know?
Now Nathan Lippa with his rebuttal.
All right, Nate. Now, you only had one real argument this time. You had half of what you had last time. A measly 2. All right, so your only real argument was that there was no motivation. Because the other one, you know what? I'm just going to ignore that power makes leaders corrupt. That happens in every system, no matter what. Power makes you corrupt.
Wow.
All right, so the only real point that Nate had, no motivation. Now, in a communist country, there isn't a lot of motivation, and that's true. But most citizens, like myself, would work for the good of the country. Now, a lot of people might not, but countries can live on the few who do work. What is the unemployment rate in Canada? Those people don't work anyway. All right? So the lack of motivation is not a problem. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this debate. Who do you think won? Vote now.
I did!
It was... I won.
I don't think either of you won, but that's not up to me.
What, Nate?
Shut up.
You know what?
I want to hear what you
Go
have to
home
say.
and eat a burger, you fat capitalist.
Joke's on you, I don't even eat burgers. I'm a vegetarian.
Well,
How about
joke's
that?
on you. I don't eat anything. I'm communist.
Oh my
Thank
God,
you for
that's
sponsoring this
point.
video, Didgeridos.
It's a joke.
They're really fun to use. They make loud noise, and they don't fight each other.
Ah,
Thanks, Didgeridos.
stupid communist.
Guys, say thanks, Didgeridos.
Thanks, Didgeridoo.
Thanks, didgeridoo.
Look how much fun they're having with their Didgeridoo.
Capitalism gives too much power.
Okay, we're gonna cut the sponsor here.
Hiya, it's me. Welcome to the bloopers.
Stop it! Oh hey, didn't see you there.
Jay.
Got you again. Didn't
How does it feel?
I recorded?
I need friends.
Hey, it's me, that boy.
Thanks for watching.